Hello, my name is Brian Hook, and my senior inquiry project is on the video game League of Legends. Specifically, I'm going to be looking at rune pages in League of Legends. I will be researching the impact that these runes have in-game. The reason I am trying to find this bonus is to see how much players are losing out on if they do not have Tier 3 runes. To do this, I will be simulating games with different tier rune pages, and I'll be looking at a couple things. The minions slain, and the different damages dealt. But before we dive into that, we're going to need to know some more information about League of Legends, like what it is, how to play, and where it came from. The game was released in 2009 by a few of the actual creators of Dota, another online video game. The game was thought up when the creators of Dota saw the new genre take off and wanted to create their own version, and thus began the age of having MOBA games. Now that we know some of the backstory, what is League of Legends and how does one play? League of Legends is a video game that falls into the category of a MOBA, or a massive online battle arena. By massive, they're simply saying that there are a lot of people that play the game, around 67 million monthly in this case. By online, it just means you're versing other real people. The battle part is referring to you are versing each other, so not everybody can win the game. The arena part means you are battling in an enclosed space, and there's a finite area that you can be in. This game type is comparable to a real-time strategy in that you are versing somebody else to complete an objective before they do. Now that we know a little bit about what League of Legends is, the question pops up, why do we care, and why is this important? League of Legends can be seen as important for a few reasons. The first being, it is the most popular video game in the world as of November 2015. Not only is it the most played video game in the world for the PC, it is by a wide margin, taking up 22% of PC playing time compared to second place, which is Counter-Strike Global Offensive, at roughly 7%. Another part that makes it important is it is classified as an e-sport, or an electronic sport, meaning it is a sport. The third thing that makes it important is it is a growing industry with large revenue. The rise of fame of esports has now caught the attention of some news stations. Here's a video from Fox News from April 2016 to help you visualize just how big esports has become.
Video game industry projected to make $17 billion this year. Those profits nearly in line with the movie industry. And now companies are spending tens of millions of dollars covering live games almost in the same way that they cover live sporting events. Best gamers out there expected to take home more than $1 million this year. Will Carr, live in LA with more on this amazing story. Hi, Will.
Hey there, Gretchen. Have you ever told your kids to stop playing video games and get outside? Well, this story may make you think twice. That's because some of these players are being treated as professional athletes, and corporate sponsors are taking note. 3, 2, 1. There are no bats, balls, or baskets, but make no mistake about it, in the growing industry of esports, video games like Riot Games' League of Legends have major parallels to traditional professional sports.
We filled out an Olympic soccer stadium in Korea a couple years ago, and the energy of the fans is just the same.
Josh Leisman covers esports athletes, as they're called, as they compete in front of live audiences and stream to millions online. The best can make 7 figures a year. And even colleges are getting into esports. UC Irvine here in Southern California recently announced that it will have esports scholarships and even build an arena. Gretchen.
What? Scholarship?
Now that we know a little bit more about the game, let's look into more in depth of what I will be researching. The focus of my project will be on runes, which are out-of-game purchases that give you in-game bonuses. And once you buy them once, you can use them for every single game you play. Runes come in 3 tiers, 1, 2, and 3, where tier 1 runes are the cheapest and give you the least benefit, and tier 3 runes cost the most but also give you the largest benefit. This is what a set of runes looks like. There are 9 red ones, 9 yellow, 9 blue, and then 3 purple ones. There are 9 red runes, and they signify the marks, which are runes that will improve your offensive abilities, like damage output. The yellow runes signify seals, which are defensive runes that improve your defense, which is taking less damage from getting hit, or having more health. The blue runes are glyphs, and they signify utility-based stat bonuses. The bonuses given by glyphs range from having increased health regeneration, moving faster, or taking less damage from magical abilities. The three large ones are the quintessences, and they are the strongest of the types. They give the largest bonus compared to the other types, and can range from any of the other categories. The downside is there's only 3 of them compared to the 9 of each other types. Though the quintessences are larger in size, this holds no meaning. They are just there for aesthetic. With background on what runes are and the bonuses they can give, next we're going to look at how do you get runes and why some people don't have them. Runes can be purchased using IP, or influence points, which is a currency in-game that you get from winning or losing games. You can use your IP for a couple of different things. One of them is to buy runes or rune pages. Another could be to unlock more characters to play as. Since this may be hard to visualize, I will pull up a main screen of League of Legends. This is what you see when you log on to the game. This is the main screen when you log on as of patch 6.7. 6.7 just means it is the 6th season that this game has been out, and this is the 7th time that they've patched the game since then, or modified it. From this page, you can also visit the shop, or start a game. In the shop, you can do a couple different things. You can buy runes, buy new champions, buy skins for those champions, which just change their in-game appearance, or buy other bundles that are out for the time being. The other main thing you can do from this screen is you can start up a game. When starting up a game, you have a few different options. You do a 5v5, which means there are 5 players on your team and 5 players on the other team. Or you can do a 3v3 on a different map, where you have 3 players versus 3 other players. There are other game modes, but the only one that's going to be important for my project is a 5v5 match, because that is the only one that is played on a professional level. Now that we've seen some of what outside of League of Legends looks like, we're going to go back to the main focus of the project, which is runes. The point of this project was to see how efficient runes were and how much of a bonus they give you, but why would I need to find that if people didn't get runes? So the next thing I'm going to look at is why some people don't get runes. There are 2 big reasons why some people don't get runes. The first being, they're extremely expensive and take a lot of time to get that much IP. To put it into perspective of how much they cost, or how much gameplay would be, they cost 8100 IP for a good set of tier 3 runes, which is equivalent to about 43 hours of gameplay. 43 hours of gameplay already seems like a lot, but when you put into perspective that professional players have up to 20 of these pages, it can seem really daunting having to put that many hours in to get these bonuses. The other major reason that people don't buy runes is because they want to spend their influence points, or IP, on other stuff, mainly more unlockable characters that they could play in their games. These unlockable characters range from costing 450 IP to 6300 IP, and since there's over 140 unlockable characters, many people will put their time and effort to getting them instead of getting rune pages. Since Riot, the company that makes League of Legends, noticed that it might be daunting having to put in this many hours to get these bonuses, they decided to make lower quality runes, ones that give you lower benefits, but costed significantly less. These runes became Tier 1 and Tier 2 runes, where Tier 1 runes give you about half the benefits of Tier 3 runes and only take about 1 hour of gameplay to get, while Tier 2 runes are about 80% of the benefit of Tier 3 runes and only take around 6 hours to get, which seems like a lot less. To recap, while Tier 3 runes give you the highest benefit, they cost a lot of time in-game to get, roughly 43 hours. The good alternative would be Tier 2 runes or second tier runes, which cost a lot less time needed to play and still give roughly 80% of the benefit. And Tier 1 runes, if you want, have very low amount of time needed to get them, but only give roughly 50% of the benefit as Tier 3 runes. With there being runes that are this much cheaper and still give a good amount of the benefit, is there really even a reason to have Tier 3 runes? And that is the source of my inquiry. And so, I'll be looking at how good Tier 3 runes are compared to Tier 2 and Tier 1 runes, and seeing how much better they are. To do this, I'll be looking at if there was a cost equivalent in-game for the runes, what would they be? Like, how much gold would they cost? And how long it would take to get that item. The other thing I will be looking at is, on average, how much extra damage you get from these runes compared to tier 2 runes and tier 1 runes, or not even having runes on at all. The first part of the inquiry is, if these runes were an in-game item, how much would they cost and how long would it take to earn that much gold? To see this, we look at the gold efficiency chart. The gold efficiency chart is able to convert raw stats into gold, which is the currency of the in-game, which you use to buy items. So we will be using this chart to convert the raw stats of the runes into a gold value for an in-game buy. The gold efficiency chart is made by using the most basic items in the game, the ones that only give you one raw stat, and comparing how much gold it is per of that stat. So if an item gave you 10 attack damage and costed 100 gold, it would be 10 gold equals 1 attack damage, and that's how the chart works. The next part would be to see, on average, how long it takes to earn that much gold in a game. And to do this, we will be using simulations of games. The simulations will be coded in Python by using statistics gained from games played in bots matches, that is, matches where you play against no one, except for the computer. And since there are so many different types of characters in the game, I'll be using the most basic type. The marksman character type is a basic character type because it uses very little abilities, and most of its damage comes from a constant stream of attacks. The other advantage of using marksman type characters is that there is little variation between the different types. That is, all marksmen use basic attacks to do most of their damage, and will use maybe one ability most of the game. The other data that will be collected from these simulations will be the average damage dealt and the average minion slain. For minion slain, that is simply saying how many times you were able to defeat one of the neutral monsters that spawn every 30 seconds throughout the game. To create simulations of the game, I created a code in Python. The first part of the code creates all the variables and the initial setup for the game. After all the initial setup was done, I created a while loop to simulate each of the games that is being held. To simulate the game, I made many while loops that simulated each level. So for one while loop, you'll be stuck in the loop until you get enough EXP or experience to get to the next level. And then you stay in that level until you have enough EXP to get to the next level. And this would happen until you finished level 12, which is roughly how long the laning phase of a game goes, and that is what I'm trying to simulate. How the code works for each specific level is first a minion is selected. Then it is decided by a random number generator if the minion is killed by you or if it dies from other means. If it is killed by you, damage is calculated through how much attack damage the character has. If there is a critical strike, which just means that is it multiplied by 1 times damage or 2 times damage. After the damage is dealt, it is calculated into the total damage dealt over the course of the game, which can be later found in the total damage dealt averagely over the total number of games. Then, depending on what minion it is, gold will be awarded to the character, and experience will be awarded to the character. Then, if a minion dies without the character killing it, only experience is awarded, since you only get the gold if you kill the minion. The last part of the code in each level is the time factor. Whenever a minion dies, 5 seconds pass, which is because every 30 seconds a pack of 6 minions will spawn. So by the time you kill 6 minions, another 6 will be coming up in the lane. So after 5 seconds, you're roughly killing 1 minion. At the end of the code, there are simple print statements that show how much average damage is dealt per game for the 1000 trials, how much gold is averaged per game, and how much time it takes to get specific items in the game. Using the code, we could find the average damage dealt per game over thousands of trials, and this is the results that we get. As you can see from the table, having no runes on can do 15% less damage over the course of a game than tier 3 runes, which is a huge percentage. These percentages are so different because it takes into account not only that the damage is different from each set of runes, but the percent chance that you're going to kill a minion with one hit is higher when you have more base damage. If you were to take into account something called perfect play, that is, you are able to last hit every single minion, the numbers would look more like this. With perfect play on, The effectiveness of the runes matters less and less because you're still last hitting every single minion, and those numbers are just going to change based on how much extra damage the runes give. It does not take into account that a player with higher damage has a higher chance of last hitting a minion compared to a player with lower damage or no runes on. Perfect play is also unrealistic since no player can ever last hit every single minion. It's theoretically possible, but it has never happened in the history of League of Legends. The next thing of importance that we could learn from the simulations is the average gold earned throughout the many trials between the tier 3, 2, and having no runes on. And as you can see from the graph, not having any runes on can be 10% less effective than having tier 3 runes on. While this 10% difference might not be as drastic as the damage dealt difference, which was 15%, we can interpret this in a different way. The way that we will be interpreting this percent difference in gold is we will be looking at how long a game it takes to get the items that are core for a player's build. That is, what items they need. What we are looking at specifically is how much longer it'll take having no runes on to get the first item, the second item, and the third item in the build, compared to having tier 3 runes on. To see how long it would take to get each of these items in each of these tiers, we look back at the code, and we find out how long it takes for the code to reach the gold needed to get these items by minion slain and ambient gold. And ambient gold is just gold earned over time. As you can see from the graph, the largest distance for the first item is only around 35 seconds, but by the time it gets to the third item, you're over 2-minute difference behind in your build for getting your third item. So it'll take having no runes over 2 more minutes to get the third item than it'll take having tier 3 runes on. This graph only accounts for how long it would take the no runes and tier 2 runes to catch up to the tier 3 runes in build. It does not account for the stat difference that tier 3 runes give to tier 2 runes. Next we will look at if the tier 3 runes were an in-game item, how long would they take to purchase, and we will add that time on to the no runes so that way we could see how long in-game it would take for the no runes to catch up to the tier 3 runes in build/damage. To do so, we go back to our gold efficiency chart from earlier and convert the stats from the tier 3 runes, tier 2 runes, into gold values of in-game currency. And looking at this chart, we can see exactly how much it costs for tier 3 runes if they were an item in-game, and tier 2 runes if they were an item in-game, and how much it would cost, like the cost differential between tier 3 and tier 2 runes, and then tier 3 and having no runes. After we add to the code how much time it would take to get that much gold for each set of runes, we get this new graph showing the different times it would take to get the first, second, and third item in-game. And as we can see, there's a much larger gap between tier 3 and no runes, and even a large gap between tier 3 and tier 2 runes now. As seen in the table, there's now over a 6-minute difference between having no runes on and tier 3 runes for the third item, and about a 2-minute difference between tier 2 runes and tier 3 runes around the third item too. This is a huge difference in time, since the games last only around 35 minutes, and seconds can decide an entire game. Overall, I'd say tier 3 runes are worth the investment, but if you're just a casual player and there's still plenty of characters you want to try out, tier 2 runes are almost as good. But if you really want to see how good you are and go into the ranked section, you should always go for tier 3 runes. These are the current sources I have used while collecting my data and what my data is based off of. And thank you for watching.